just last week we had a spate of gender violence. We had xenophobic attacks. We were all tremendously outraged. I got the t-shirts. And as a nation, we really had enough of the sentiment that it puts out. The media has been sometimes putting out things that were not necessarily factual. It has divided us as a country. It has caused outrage even in other countries, Nigeria, where South African businesses were attacked, sometimes off the premise of false media. And there was a lot of fighting about the president's silence at the time. So the president had been silent for some time, and the nation was outraged to say, there's a saying that if you choose silence in the time of oppression, then you've chosen the side of the oppressor. And so we felt that there was not enough empathy as a nation. A lot of people felt that as South Africans we weren't saying enough. And we just want to actually use this platform, and like I said, we appreciate everyone who's taken the time to actually join the conversation. I'd like to actually start between Zaynab and Cheryl. Have you guys had any direct or indirect experiences of xenophobia? What does it look like? Do you think South Africans are xenophobic?
Hi everyone. So as she mentioned, I'm from Zimbabwe. I was born in Zimbabwe, but I actually came to South Africa in 2009. So I've been in South Africa for 10 years. And unfortunately, yes, I've had some direct experiences of xenophobia. And that was when we were at home, and then all of a sudden you just get people saying, we don't want you anymore, you're taking our jobs, your men are taking our women, you know, those kind of things. And so there is points whereby me and my family had to run to abandon our home and actually rush to the bush, you know, just to seek refuge, and had nights there where we were just running away from this angry mob that was just saying we don't want you anymore, right? And I myself see my family as a very respectful family, right? We're just here to earn a living. We didn't come to South Africa just for the luxury of it. We were actually forced by circumstances whereby we didn't have food in the home, whereby I couldn't go to school because I was being chased away each and every day when I went to school because my parents could not afford the fees. And it wasn't their fault as well that they could not afford my fees, right? This happened when the economy of Zimbabwe hit like an all-time low. That was ending of 2007, 2008, going upwards. That's when the economy actually like crashed and things were super bad, right? And it's really painful when you see people who are like you, people who are trying to make a living just like you, telling you that, no, you don't have a right to make a living, right? But who are you? Do you get it? We're not just, in this world, I believe it's not just Zimbabwe like you, Zimbabwean, that's what you are, you're Zambian, that's what you are, you're whatever. I can take, for example, my own mother, her origins are from South Africa. Her last name is Vundla, right? And she, if we trace back her ancestry, it comes back to South Africa, right? So doesn't that make me half South African, right? So we're not just one-dimensional. We don't just have one blood line in our running through our veins, and that's just one very painful thought that comes to my mind when you're forced to sleep in the bushes just because you want to see the next day, just because you are here to make a living. You know, just because you are human, you want something better for yourself as well. So yeah, I have experienced direct xenophobic attacks, yeah, it was a really painful experience.
So, being the daughter of an immigrant, from my mum and dad's perspective, I've experienced xenophobia through their stories, and I never expected in my lifetime, from the opportunities they afforded me, to have to actually face xenophobia myself until I came to South Africa. And it's, I'm really sorry for your experiences, because I can try to relate to you, but I can never relate to you because my parents were the ones that were the immigrants that went through it. So they gave me opportunity in that I have options. I don't have to sit in one country and experience anything. And unfortunately, that's not the case for the majority of people. So I'm really sorry for the pain your families had to face. From my personal experience, I did come to South Africa for the luxury of the lifestyle. And what I brought with me was my business acumen, and I brought businesses here, and I set up businesses here, and I created employment, and I employ a number of staff within certain businesses as well as within my household that are also South African. I had an instance where one of the businesses that I entered into a venture with a local partner, I'm all for BEE partnering, I'm all for women empowerment. I had two female partners, one white shareholder, white South African shareholder at 20% of the business, one black South African female shareholder at 40% of the business, which it was my choice to make equal partner with myself. As soon as the business was up and running, and it's a very, very prestigious location and a very prestigious business, as soon as it was up and running in Sandton City, my local partner had a meeting with myself and my husband, who is African American, and said to the both of us, "Don't you ever think in this great nation of South Africa that you could ever come here and own anything in my country over my dead body." Those were her words. This is a well-educated South African woman who went to university outside of South Africa, so she's exposed internationally. And the words rang true in my head so clearly for, it's taken me years to still get over this, that it made me feel such fear for even wanting to invest. I don't want to own anything. I don't want to put my IP into anything. I didn't want to do this for a number of years because of her venom and her approach to how she wanted to own that business for herself. She subsequently bought our share. I made enough money and covered myself, but she ran the business into the ground, and the business no longer exists. So it's something that exists on many levels, and we sit here and we think, oh, it's just about, it's just a case of people fighting with each other because there's not enough to fight over. To have individually. And actually it exists on many levels in this country. And unfortunately, when you ask the question, do I think all South Africans are xenophobic? And he said that was what came to my mind. I was like, actually, there was a time where I felt that I don't want to have any South African friends. Sorry, Jesmane. And there was a time where I actually felt that maybe we should, and we went back to London. If you remember, we went back to London for a bit, for about a year and about 7 or 8 months. And then we regrouped, and we said, we had to remind ourselves that not everyone can be tarred with the same brush. So yeah, we are back, but then we're back, and now this has come up in a massive way. And I'm really hoping that that there is a solution for it. I'm hoping that what you said, Neeshan, about South Africans rallying around the cause of xenophobia is not true to their humanity. I'm hoping that there is a cause or there are issues that are bigger and that they can rally around.
That was very heavy. I'd like, Jesmane, what are your views? Jesmane, no. What do you guys feel? How would you respond to that? What's your take on it?
So I'm so sorry that you've had this experience. I feel ashamed that as a South African, we haven't been welcoming. And I also was of the view before, when I came to university in the early 90s from an exclusively coloured community, at that time, less than 10% of the population, the student population was black. And so I had friends, I stayed at Jubilee Hall, we only had one table where all Africans sit together. So there was just this immediate bonding, and from there I was a bridesmaid for a friend in Namibia. I have friends from across Africa, and I immediately, when I came onto campus, embraced an African sisterhood. So I find it hard to believe that not all South Africans feel that way. And initially I was also of the view, because of my embracing people from Africa, that it's probably limited to a small criminal element, and it's limited to lower income communities where people do not have jobs and they feel aggrieved when they see their neighbor setting up a shop. But when I speak to so many people across middle class people and across different income divides of Africans living in South Africa, and they really feel that there is this xenophobic culture against them. I can't ignore that perception. There's too many people who have the same variant to their story, so I do need to sit back, and I feel that as South Africans we need to own that there is this perception of xenophobia. I think it's a red herring if we're going to get into a debate, are we xenophobic or aren't we, but we need to own there is the perception we are xenophobic, and what do we do about it, how do we embrace people. And I feel we need to look at the entire ecosystem that causes the xenophobia. We can't, if we look at one lever, we miss the entire ecosystem. And so first of all, starting with that humanity, to teach people that it's utterly unacceptable, it's wrong, it's inhumane, to have people push back, and for various people of you, if you go back to your family, some of you might live on campus, but if you're in communities where people make xenophobic comments or a comment of, it's this particular population that's causing the crime, to say, yes, there is that element and we need to deal with it, but there's also these X, Y, Z people who are doing great things. So also play your role in counter messaging, and then we also need to call out and make corporates accountable who exploit foreign workers, pay them below the minimum wage. First of all, that doesn't level the playing field. We like everyone to feel that they can, whether they are South African or foreign, to feel that they can be hired, and then we don't want foreigners to be exploited. And I think a lot of corporates do that. There needs to be more audits, there needs to be a calling out that behavior is wrong. And the policing needs to be better when people need to be felt that they will be brought to justice if they attack a foreigner. And then we also do need to look at the criminal elements. So first of all, we need to be against stigmatization. It's very unfair. There's an element of criminal activity by foreign people here. I'm sure that in terms of percentages, I'm sure the percentage is small. To not stigmatize an entire population group. I've had great friendship. Cheryl and I have been friends for 10 years. I've worked at the World Economic Forum, where I was head of business for Africa, based out of Switzerland, and I had various friends from different African countries, and we worked together on projects. So there's so many positive experiences, and for all of us to remember that we need a narrative that's honest, that's not deflects to one element of criminality, because that would be an untruthful narrative. And then on the criminality, we do need to make sure that our policing is in place for whether criminals are South African or foreign. I think we generally have issues on policing, and we need to ensure that is fixed. Because I think it gives everyone a bad name if those elements are not dealt with. And then we all need to come together to tackle social problems. That's the social cohesion we can have as for everyone living here. How do we help the people who are not employed? How do we create opportunities, financial inclusion, education, energy? How do we give that opportunities to the marginalized communities who don't have? And how do we come together collectively to address that? And then how do we tell our stories? There's so much in our personal stories. There's humanity. There's a connection and there's empathy. And this, just hearing, even Cheryl and I have been friends for 10 years, and it's the first time I've heard the story in this way. And when Cheryl read my book, she said, I've known you for 10 years, and there's so much of you I didn't know. And we need to tell our stories because that creates the empathy, the vulnerability, and the connection. And we need to engage with foreigners on that basis of humanity.
I think that South Africans, especially young South Africans, have a particular way of engaging with ideas, and the kinds of discourse that we've produced recently has been, in some senses, quite scary in the ways in which we weaponize ideology and we use it to make ourselves morally better than everybody else, and the way that we dehumanize. What you're talking about reminded me, or when you think about the ways in which the decolonization project, and the way that it's been digested by young people, some young people, has been to create a sense of superiority, that I'm better, that I know better, do you know what I mean? And it's strange the way that it finds expression in being condescending to people, shrinking the political center, shutting down discourse. But I also think that there's and this is not in contestation to that idea, I think that there's a difference between xenophobia and genocide. I think that South Africa has a xenophobic culture, and I think that I've never heard someone say that, and I found it really quite fascinating, saying that we should call out xenophobic comments in the same ways in which is kind of a similar strategy that's being mobilized against femicide, that call out sexist comments. And it puts it in a different light in a way that I see it now, and I'm able to understand xenophobia in ways that I didn't before. But when it comes to genocide, or the killing of people perceived to be foreigners, in 2008, the Nelson Mandela Foundation did research into xenophobia. And what we found was that in many of the centers where xenophobic attacks were happening, the shadow state was very strong in those areas. So the shadow state is where there's very little and the state and its presence in municipal and other levels is very absent, and it fails the area. And in those areas, strong men emerge. So there's that one guy you know, if you need a house, go to that guy, so join the house. If you need a job, there's that one guy, go to that guy. Don't go to the state, go to someone in the community. It's the shadow state. What we found is that when foreign African nationals come to South Africa, they don't immerse themselves into that shadow state. They don't comply with the existing strongman and the existing shadow state. They create their own. They come with their own communities, and they contest for power with the shadow state. They become rivals, in a sense, in those communities. And what we found, at least in 2008 attacks, was that it was by command, it was an instruction to go kill them. And the basis of it was not so much that they're necessarily different or imagined to be different, was because it's a contestation for power and control over area, resources, and otherwise, not from necessarily individuals who live in that environment, but by the strong in themselves. And it was a pushback. And that situation is created by the value that is created from the state. When the state isn't supplying or delivering resources and other services, something must give, something must happen. And there's also this movement in Cape Town called Hold Cape Town, where It was a very similar argument that we're seeing now around xenophobia attacks. Someone was saying that black South Africans from the Eastern Cape need to leave the Western Cape because there are no jobs. And that they're giving them a time limit, and at the end of this time, it keeps rolling on, rolling on, rolling on. And it's that same logic again that no, different people must leave, whatever they look like, whatever they mean. And so then I'm interested then in what are the linkages between xenophobia and genocide, and I know because terms of about this conversation. How much of it is an actual culture of hatred of the rest of Africa? And I think in the xenophobia is some of it is not seen to be ugly, some of it is seen to be glorifying this idea of this romantic Africa. I'm going to go to Africa. You know what I mean? This exotifying of anything other than South Africa, the South African exclusionism. That's part of it. It's the same logic that we're here, everything else out there is different in particular ways. It's either beautiful, it's ugly, it's scary, it's just an othering. And I'm interested in how far does that logic and that argument and that thinking contribute to the killing of people who are perceived to be different? When we see that a lot of it is economic, it's about power, and those are my interests and concerns with it.
So I'm going to read where it speaks about, it's from this chapter called Different Paths to Reconciliation. So you say, I feel that my role in reconciliation is to continue on this path of education, to offer the same treatment, care, and guidance to all children of all races, and giving back to South Africa, treating people fairly and with dignity, and looking to the other person rather than their race. And so I think that having said that, I think in the earlier segments, Neeshan, you made very compelling comments, about how we are not united in our values, how we're not united in seeing people with the dignity per se. I'm extrapolating. And so I want to ask about the role of civil organization in addressing or responding to these things.
Just a slightly different anecdote about xenophobia over 200 years. So about 160 years ago, a huge number of Indian people arrived in South Africa. But if you look at the newspapers in Durban at the time, whites were up in arms, English white people. That these people are coming here, they smell, they're not of our religion, they're coming to take our jobs, and they will prosper and then take away our economy and whatever. Certain kind of sentiments today. But by 1970s, the permits which you're required to move as an Indian person to Natal or from Natal to Transvaal was done away with. And there was a huge movement of Indian people from Durban to Johannesburg. Indian people residing in Johannesburg were saying these Indians from Durban are coming to take our jobs, they're coming to take our women, they're coming to do almost the same thing. So these kinds of fears of other people is not necessarily only about race. It's internal, it's class, it can be all kinds of different things. But it's because we fear those that we don't know. Now, there's an exercise I did with the staff of the foundation last week. When we think of border walls, how many countries do you think in the world today have put up walls to keep others out? Any guess? How many countries? How many countries there is? Just take a guess. 4 countries. Now, how many countries have put up physical walls, like Trump is trying to do in Mexico? So, how many countries I think have done this or in the process of doing it? 66. There are 66 countries who are doing this now. They have done it, who are doing it. And it goes back to the Roman Empire, it goes back to the Chinese Empire. Walls have been put up to keep others out. It's not a new phenomenon. Because people move, across centuries, people have moved. Migration starts in this country, from the cradle of humankind, where it is said the first humans originated, and then moved to the rest of the world. So in a sense, we have exported migrants. Yeah, when migrants come back here, we don't know how to deal with it. We've been doing work in Limpopo, and similar sentiments. If you're not from that part of Limpopo, you shouldn't be getting a job there. Doesn't matter who you are, but if you're not part of that area, you don't speak that language, the union doesn't want you there. So I think we need to understand the kind of overall complexity of our fear of the others. It's not just race, it cuts across tribe, it cuts across geographic areas today. Fundamental to this is the issue of economic resources. It's the scarcity of jobs, it's the poverty, the deprivation that I think we are in. So, I actually forgot what your question was. But just some statistics. There's a very useful study on xenophobia that tackles a lot of what you were saying, but done by the Gauteng City Region Observatory in conjunction with Wits in New Jersey, around about 2013, 2014. It's the most comprehensive study that you will find in xenophobia. And that's where this conclusions of South Africans being xenophobic is where I get it from. But more than half of business owners in Gauteng today operate in the informal sector. Now, if you understand that on its own, you can understand why there is this threat about others coming to operate in the same space, and why we will have this particular problem. But linked to that, the fourth biggest concern of people in this province is the issue of drugs. Now, if you combine this issue, the real issue of drugs that people experience, the lack of policing, the fear of foreigners, is that easy to say, well, the major drivers of the drug problem are foreigners here, and therefore we must act against it. And that's how we play on people's fears. What is civil society doing? What can it do? We obviously can't compete with the state. No civil society organization, as far as I know, has a budget equivalent to even the smallest department in government. Yet I would put my head on the block to say that what many of us do with the limited resources we have is probably 10 times of greater impact and value than the smallest government department. And it's primarily the responsibility of any state to provide the safety and the security for people, but to also provide the leadership to deal with the challenges that people in that country would be experiencing. I would contend today that if it were not for faith-based organizations, civil society organizations, and so forth, and the kind of relief work that they do in the welfare space in terms of feeding and looking after the destitute of this country, you would have had a revolution of the poor probably 5 or 8 or 10 years ago. I think civil society and the non-governmental sector in many ways keeps this country going in better than I think the state does with all of its resources. It's not sustainable, which is why I think the need to push for a different kind of government, a different kind of state that is more responsive, more caring, it is something that we all just have to do. Because I think that the avalanche of just anger and rebellion will come if we don't get government to change, whether it's an armed force of government or whether it's any other government now. the lethargy that has been there in the last 25 years has not gone away with a new leadership.
In our closing, I'd like to just read a short extract of the book, which says, "The world is divided and fractured more than ever now. It is crippled by fear of lack and of the other. It seems that we are going backwards. That's why now is the time for us to share our stories and to become inspirational leaders. The time is now because ethnic, racial, and other forms of bigotry and hatred continue to fester globally, and new contentions are arising as migrants make their way into various countries. That is why now is the time for each of us to become inspirational leaders. Now is the time for us to bridge for authentic connections, even if we must sometimes do so through our own pain and must override all patterns of default reactions." With that said, I hope that today's session was meaningful to you. It has helped you to reflect on yourself and on your own perceptions, your own experiences, your own lived experiences, how it fits into the world, how it helps you relate better with others, and become more self-aware that issues as strong as xenophobia, they exist throughout races, they exist throughout class, they exist throughout the world, but we are the ones who can really drive the change. Please be encouraged that in your day-to-day experiences, how are you correcting people? How are you changing the perceptions? And thank you once again for coming. That's us.